I'm trying to understand how this movie works. And I'm using works in the loosest way possible since I'm not completely sure if it does work. It has a somewhat cohesive story with a clear beginning and end, if it is somewhat jumbled. It has some cool looking effects and some likable characters. So on that level, it's fine. But on other levels, it fails quite hard. Spoilers ahead. Sure, some of the characters are likable, but I'm not sure what the purpose of a lot of them are. They simply exist to be in this movie. The most obvious being Quicksilver. He does provide what is almost certainly the coolest scene in the movie, but why is his character there? The mansion explosion is cool, but what does it contribute to the story? It's destroyed, but as soon as we return to it, we see it quickly being rebuilt by Jean Grey and Magneto. Of course, there's another possible purpose to his character.
Magneto? He's my father.
What?
Him and my mom, they did.
No, I know.
Magneto joins Apocalypse after he loses his wife and daughter. He feels like he's lost everything. Quicksilver searches for Magneto because he is his long-lost father. So surely Quicksilver provides an anchor for Magneto, showing him that he truly does have more to live for. Except Quicksilver never tells Magneto that he's his son. So that storyline effectively goes nowhere. Quicksilver appears to be here because he was popular in the last movie. I'm left to conclude that Quicksilver had no purpose in this movie. But a lot of characters feel unnecessary. I cannot think of a reason for Nightcrawler, Storm, Psylocke, Angel, Beast, or Wolverine to be in this movie. Wolverine tears through the people at the Weapon X facility, and it seems cool, but also feels like a missed opportunity for us to see Cyclops, Jean Grey, and Nightcrawler work as a team to save their fellow X-Men. But I could make the same argument for a lot of the characters in Captain America Civil War. So why do I not complain about that? Well, because that movie has some clear themes that many of the characters play into, and most of the characters have a key role in the plot. The characters don't feel as necessary in X-Men Apocalypse. Then again, we can compare it to another comic book movie this year, Batman v Superman. That movie was a mess as well, and pretty much did major character assassinations to Batman, Superman, and Lex Luthor. No one in X-Men Apocalypse is treated so poorly. All the characters here are at least treated with respect. Then we start looking at the timeline of this new X-Men trilogy, and suddenly Deadpool's quote seems so very accurate.
Let us go talk to the professor.
McAvoy or Stewart? These timelines are so confusing.
Instead of being Scott's younger brother, Havoc is now Scott's older brother. But now think about this. Scott's of high school age in Apocalypse. Let's assume Havoc was the same age in First Class, which seems likely. That means there's a 20-year age difference between siblings. Not impossible, but certainly unusual. It's not helped by the fact that Havoc doesn't look anywhere near the late 30s he would need to be. The same late 30s Beast would be, and doesn't look. And now I have to ask, why even set this movie in the 80s? First Class and Days of Future Past made use of the time periods they were set in by using historical events and figures, like the Cuban Missile Crisis and Tricky Dick.
Fuck me.
Apocalypse uses one historical event I can think of, the release of Return of the Jedi, and a scene that is designed to make fun of The Last Stand, but kinda backfires since the same scene can be used to make fun of Apocalypse as the weakest in this new trilogy. I also like the moral of the movie, which we see play out through Magneto. You can kill all the people you want, but as long as you attack the big bad at the end, all will be forgiven. What a great lesson. Seriously, there should be some penance for Magneto's actions, but instead he just helps rebuild the mansion and replays a quick greatest hits of lines with Xavier.
Doesn't it ever wake you up in the middle of the night? The feeling that someday they'll come for you and your children.
I feel a great swirl of pity for the poor soul that comes to my school looking for trouble.
And leaves. And what of the big bad of this movie? I've been wanting to see Mr. Sinister or Apocalypse in an X-Men movie since they started making them. And here's Apocalypse, and I can't tell you much about him except he's evil and super powerful. Oscar Isaac is a great actor and he does everything he can with his performance, which ends up being almost nothing. He is your very basic evil for the sake of evil villain. If he was a less popular character, he'd be just as memorable as Malekith. His plan is to cleanse humanity, but when he gains access to the world's nuclear weapons, he does his best to recreate a key scene in Superman 4. He's not taking the opportunities he has to complete his plan. He dusts people with a mere thought, unless they have a strong contract like Cyclops and Quicksilver. Then he'll just trap you in rock and maybe break your leg if he feels saucy. What is his endgame? Cleanse humanity? How? I literally have no idea what he wants to do. All it seems like he wants is Professor X's powers. That's it. Pretty much this movie is the origin of Professor X's male pattern baldness. I'm kind of getting sick of the constant origin stories for things that never had origins before. It started with Rogue's white streak and now Xavier's hair. What's next? The origin of Wolverine's anger is really his constant production of gallstones? Probably the worst thing about this movie is how it's constantly covering ground we've done before. It makes the franchise feel stale, even though this is the first movie after a reboot that clears most of the other movies. Cyclops' powers go nuts in high school. Again. Magneto seems like a good guy, but because of some past tragedy, he turns evil. Again. Cerebro is used as a weapon. Again. William Stryker experiments on Wolverine. Again. Professor X is captured or incapacitated. Again. It's all capped off with a rereading the last lines in 2000's X-Men.
Doesn't it ever wake you in the middle of the night? The feeling that someday they will pass that foolish law, or one just like it, and come for you and your children.
It does indeed. What do you do when you wake up to that?
I feel a great swell of pity for the poor soul who comes to that school looking for trouble.
Add to it the fact that Jennifer Lawrence is clearly checked out of this franchise.
Welcome home.
This isn't my home.
It was once.
No, it was your home. I just lived here.
For a mutant who decided to use her mutant form because people should accept her for who she is, she chooses to almost never use it here. They give us an excuse, but it's very clear Jennifer Lawrence just wants to minimize her time on set. And what's up with Wolverine anyway? Mystique takes Stryker's form to fish him out of the water.
I'll take him from here.
Then, rather than help him escape, she just leaves him to Stryker. That's a pretty shitty move. So, does this movie suck? Kinda. Parts definitely do suck, and a fair amount of the movie drags, but a fair amount of the movie is also entertaining. Magneto's tragedy in the forest is well done. McAvoy and Fassbender are in top form as always. Most everyone turns in a solid performance. There's some fun action scenes, even if the action to defeat Apocalypse equates to, let's just throw a lot of shit at him. If you love all the X-Men movies, then you should be fine here because it's not the worst movie in the franchise by a decent margin. For everyone else, I'd recommend this as a fun rental when it's available. And going back to Quicksilver, what tape deck does he have that plays at super speed?
Freeze him, Charles.
I can't.
Hands up!
If I could save time in a bottle.
Hey, if you like this video, please make sure to hit that like button and go ahead and subscribe. That helps me out a lot. And if you really love this video, consider visiting my Patreon page.